So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session, Gateway to Global South. We have an extremely eminent set of panelists here today, and we want to explore how can we position Sri Lanka in this new market today. So, if you look at it globally, we are in a very disruptive era, I think, with wars, with economic tariffs being slapped on people, with so much of economic pressures in so many different regions. So in all of this, how can we position Sri Lanka is the main, I would say, question, and how do we do it? So to begin with, I just want to maybe ask all the panelists, is this the right time? Is there opportunity? And do you think it is, we are able to position Sri Lanka as a gateway to Global South? So maybe Carl, do you want to go?
Thank you, Manuri. Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me here at that panel and at Disrupt Asia. It's amazing to be back in Sri Lanka and to be back among friends. I think it's definitely an incredible window in time that we're living globally, and with the USA behaving like the USA is behaving right now, which reshuffles totally the cards of the global scene. And I think countries that have an ambition for excellence, which in my case in my opinion is the case in Sri Lanka, have a big opportunity to step up and to take on a role on the international scene. I learned so many things about Sri Lanka, and one thing that I learned and that I'm fascinated with is the position of Sri Lanka globally and the position of Sri Lanka in South Asia. Sri Lanka as the new Singapore, or as the Switzerland of South Asia. So I don't know if Sri Lanka can be the gateway to the global South, because I don't know if Sri Lanka can be a gateway to the south of Argentina, for example, which is also the global South. But I think Sri Lanka can be a very, very important gateway to the global South Asia. And I'm fascinated with the idea that Sri Lanka, this small but powerful island, has the ability to federate business relationships with all its big neighbors, be it India, be it Pakistan, be it Bangladesh, or Southeast Asian countries. So I think this is definitely a role that Sri Lanka can take, and that probably has been taken already. That should be reinforced, and especially in regards to the tech businesses that we see present here in this exhibition.
Thank you, Carl. So maybe Prajit, I mean, we've always been in the middle, right in the smack in the middle of the ancient Silk Route, in also the trade, maritime trade. But when it comes to digital economy, there are no boundaries. So how do we kind of carve out this place for us within the Global South, at least to be the hub where people converge to enter other markets in this area?
First and foremost, thank you, Manuri, for having us here. And I would like to thank the Digital Ministry for inviting the private sector to be part of this. I think it's the first time it's happened in a long time, where collectively everyone's come together. If you look at the logos, you see a lot of private and public sector coming together to develop an ecosystem that is very, very nascent, right? So, I don't know how many of you saw the last panel, but I had my partner here who kept saying, we need exits, right? So that's one thing I'll come back to. But just to give you a perspective of why did we set up here in the first place? So at that time, when we set up in 2009, when the war ended, we said, BOB Capital said, time is now. Why Sri Lanka? We have solid entrepreneurs, super entrepreneurs. At that time, my partner was working for Google, and he said, I don't know what you guys are eating and drinking, but the coding school is amazing, because we had the per capita number of coders being invited to the coding school is like cinema to the world, right? Or like ASEAN graduates. So then we decided to embark on that journey, and we started investing. And when we started off, we started the Lankan Angel Network, we started the Venture Engine program, and yesterday you all saw how well the startups are coming through. So we have the potential. So answering your question, potential is there, always been there. Why Sri Lanka? Within a 5-hour flying time, you know, you have enough GDP to capture. You don't have to go all the way to Europe or the UK to capture that market. And why I say this also is because we have a lack of funds here, right? There's insufficient funding. So when you heard the Paytm founder talking about how well the market is here. If your product is good and you have a product market fit, then you can go. So marketing budget is also a lot when you want to go further away. So we always tell our founders, just tap the region, do your test market here, tap the region and try. We are living proof of why we are a gateway to South Asia or Southeast Asia is because it's a good test market. Right? And then from here we go forward. Right? So I'll leave it at that and then come back to other questions. Yeah?
Sure. Chandima, maybe you'd like to share your thoughts as well, please.
Yeah, so I think this whole journey actually takes a couple of years back when the whole kind of digital policy framework was drawn based on inputs from hundreds of people, industry bodies, before this government had any chance of winning at that time. But there was one assumption that was made, which I think looks like that's the right assumption that we have made, which is we always felt that we have the talent and given the right ingredients, right environment, right conditions, they'll take Sri Lanka forward. I think that's a fundamental assumption that was made. And that's why there was a higher emphasis on developing kind of the startup ecosystem and not just supporting the traditional IT business as all the governments have been supporting. So that's number one. Number two, I think, is the stuff that we're talking about. I think we've been talking about for a decade. But I think finally we have a set of leaders and leadership at different levels who's ready to listen and break the basic assumption the governments make, which is the regulation and laws are fixed. So until you have that mindset, nothing moves. Right? I think we have always tried to find solutions within existing legal frameworks, regulations, and all of that. And we always find a wall. And I think we finally have a political leadership, a set of bureaucrats, and I think private sector coming in and being very specific in terms of what the specific problems are, which makes it easier for government also to say, okay, these are like the 4 things that we will try to do this year. These are maybe the 4 things that we will try to do next year. Versus like a list of 30 things, which kind of gets lost. So I think we are not quite where we want to be. We still have a few fights left, but I think we made great progress to give confidence, I think, to all our private sector partners who are working with us to show that this can be done. I think there's a lot of things to be done. But the other fundamental thing on why this whole startup ecosystem development is important for Sri Lanka. We have had phases of growth of GDP, but the problem with that phase is about how that wealth got distributed. It was very uneven. This is a problem for most countries. And startups actually brings a business model of wealth creation for a wider set of people who don't actually bring capital to the table. I think this is the same point that was emphasized by Sanjeeva, to say like, okay, employees own the company. So in that sense, I think these startups are a great business model for Sri Lanka, not really to solve, but to be one of those solutions that will actually create wealth for people who otherwise will not generate that kind of wealth. So those are like the underlying factors as to why this whole startup space is getting this level of attention. It's I think, anchored on very core principles for the government, and that is also why we are getting the support that we are getting right now.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Thank you, Chandima. And we'll come back to a bit more on you know, what more is required to position us. But Shiluka, also very quickly, your thoughts on how can we take this opportunity to position ourselves?
Thank you. So I'll talk from my KPMG experience.
Yeah.
As KPMG, we, Sri Lanka, of course, we can work across the SAARC region, Nepal, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Maldives, no issues. We take resources from India and Pakistan and can deploy to Nepal and Bangladesh. So the fact that we are here, everybody loves us, nobody hates us so far, is a great place to be, and I think that's the role we are acting as, a gateway, whether it's to South Asia or even the rest of the world. Even with the Middle East, where KPMG Sri Lanka is part of our cluster, we do a tremendous amount of work in technology, cybersecurity, etc. High-end work, not body shopping. And we've now moved that across to the Caspian countries as well, because they moved out from Russia, and they need resourcing, and we are providing those resources from here. Same with the Caribbean. We have a practice in Colombo that 100 people working for the Cayman Islands, audit and advisory. And the managing partner of our Caribbean practice, which is a $1 billion practice, is Sri Lanka. He's been there for 20 years. So that's how we are. We punch way above our weight. We have 20 million people, not that big, but in terms of impact, amazing. I got a mail from an Australian company, never heard of them before, but large, and the CFO is a Sri Lankan. And I think if you throw a stone in Australia, you'll hit a Sri Lankan accountant. So I think that's the weight that Sri Lanka brings in and the talent that we have.
Yeah, amazing stories. And absolutely, and that's one of the USPs that we kept hearing today about Sri Lankan talent. But coming back to what Chandima shared, and this morning we heard from the Honorable Deputy Minister, from Dr. Hans, about the new laws and policies and regulations that are going to come into place hopefully very soon to create this environment. And the big missing factor so far has been the lack of investments, venture capital funding that is in Sri Lanka, of course, barring BOV capital. So these are some of the new things that we are hoping, a fund of funds to be established, special virtual economic zones, and also the tax pass-through structure. So that, I would say, is the bare minimum that you need to attract an investor. But then I'll go perhaps straight to Chandima again. When would these things, can we realistically see it actually being enacted or passed into law? And what more is the government considering to really attract companies, investment companies, to come into Sri Lanka?
Yeah, I think some of these are like real hygiene factors apart from the fund of funds, right? So I think we thought we are very close. Legal changes are not always easy, so probably it'll take like 6 months for us to complete everything that we have started. Then there's another set of changes that we want to bring. Fund of funds, I think Deputy Minister Ranga committed to launch by January. I think the government portion is already committed. So the idea is to create like a $50 million fund, government to make a commitment of like $5 million, which is already committed, it's already budgeted. But we need other development partners, I think Sri Lankan family officers, and other, maybe even banks, to top it up, to make that $50 million. From a Sri Lankan government perspective, I think this $5 million is really an investment in the development of an ecosystem. It's not just an equity play, because we want this ecosystem to be valued at $1 billion in 2030, which is like 1 out of the $5 billion target. And it's a catalyst. I mean, it's not something the government needs to keep on doing, but I think at this stage, it's a way to incentivize the early set of venture capitalists who gets excited by coming here, seeing the talent, and this is an incentive for them to actually act fast and make use of these facilities.
Absolutely.
So I mean, the ecosystem building is a massive effort. It's about connecting dots. So we need to strengthen our university system. We need to fix certain cultural elements. We need to make it okay for parents to feel their kids are actually trying out a startup, which they actually, I think, assign 0 value right now for that activity of getting into a startup during early stage, and they get the pressure of finding a job. So we need to address that. I mean, we did something similar, like I think 15 years ago, IT was like that. When we had to go around Sri Lanka and promote IT as a career. I think today IT has been accepted as a career, but maybe not the kind of the entrepreneurship in tech space. So we need to do all of that. So from universities, I think some level of education, some level of space for incubate certain ideas, test. In university and industry, collaboration and linkage is important. I think we have a lot of research that's on the shelves of libraries. How do we commercialize that? I know Science and Tech Ministry is also working on a model around that. Then the first stage of venture studios, accelerators, and of course the venture capital. So it's a whole ecosystem that needs to be built. But also I think the good thing is, I think maybe Prajit can talk more, but we see startups who are ready for each of these phases already available. Certain startups who's ready to receive like a pre of $1 million. And then another set of startups who are ready to get kind of incubated. Another set of startups kind of somewhere in the middle who probably need some international exposure and connecting them to kind of global ecosystems. So we are super excited and we are just getting started and we will drive this agenda through.
Absolutely, and congratulations for all the hard work I know that went behind the scenes to really bring the changes to this whole policy frameworks. And I think it was also very significant, as Prajit also mentioned yesterday, government and private sector working hand in hand to really push this boundaries and make the changes. So, Prajit, you've been one of the rare investment companies who's been here for a long time, working against all odds with all the existing barriers. Tell me about that journey and how do you now see the next, phase of your company? Yeah.
So towards the latter part of last year, I was thinking that we were doing something wrong. Because there were no followers. There were no other VCs in the country. Right? No registered VC who was investing 100% into the Sri Lankan startups. We were the only ones who were doing it. Right? And we were also trying to unlock the local potential. I mean, we have a few high net worth investors here, and we, try to see if they can understand the asset class that we're going into. And one of the biggest problems in unlocking, and something we spoke about, the last panel spoke about, in terms of you want foreigners to come here, locals have to participate. So if locals are to participate, how do you get them into a comfort zone? So with interest rates going down, now money is going towards stocks. Stock market is regulated. But having said that, startups were regulated in India, but in Sri Lanka still not. And that's what we're trying to do here, right? So if you look at it from 2012, we started the Angel Network. 2015, we created our first fund out of Singapore. The reason why we set up out of Singapore was because the double taxation. But then our second fund we set up here because of Dialogue and Axiata, and that's a digital innovation fund that we've set up here because they could not set up outside, so as a result we set up. We went to a few tax consultants and we were told that the government would change the laws so that we don't get double taxed, right? So, and also in 2015, we sat with the World Bank. We were in that MODSID committee for innovation and entrepreneurship, and we had a plan for 2024, 10-year plan. And the plan was basically avoid double taxation, fund of funds, tax pass-through structures, share swaps, all those were in there. The file just went into the bin. I don't know what happened, right? So the frustration is we've been talking about this for the last 10 years, and I said I was about to give up, and I get invited in January saying, hey, do you want to talk to us and see what's going on, right? Because even Venture Engine, they said, you run a good program, it's one of the best competitions in the country. which we founded. We don't run it. We founded, and we have the Lankan Angel Network and everybody else coming. The ecosystem players come and do a good part in it, and you all saw the results of it yesterday. In terms of 175 companies applied, 12 finalists pitched yesterday, and we had some good winners, good impact, good female founders, and that's the talent pool we're talking about. And the question asked by me, by all the international VCs that were there is, so who's going to fund this? I said, I'm not sure, right? And that's the problem, because I don't have, since I'm the only VC here, we want them to do it faster so that we can bring more people in, right? And I think that's why we're all here. So I was very, I wouldn't say optimistic, I was very not so optimistic about, coming in because of the past record. So I said, okay, I have 3 conditions. Get me these things and we'll work together. They said, can do, right? And the 4 things were the same things we're talking about in terms of visas for foreigners to come, all these different things. So we collectively got a few questions from the ecosystem players that affects startups, that affects investors for startups, right? So, and then put it together and put a paper together, and I think with Shiluka's help, we sent it to the government and to the digital ministry, and I'm told that we have got 4 steps ahead. That's a good sign. Because before we were at 0 and we kept at 0 and nothing has happened, nothing was done. Here now we are in discussions. Today we had a discussion during lunchtime. They didn't let me have lunch either, by the way. So anyway, we had the discussion about this at lunchtime, and it's looking positive. At least now I understand from the government's perspective what the obstacles are. So we are also helping, Carl is also here to help in terms of looking at how other countries have solved it and how we can solve this. There is solutions for these things, and it's not rocket science. India has done it, Singapore has done it, but we also need to have a local solution for us because of the, I suppose, 22 million people, but we also have a different mindset. I don't want to call it island mindset because people sometimes say that lazy. We are not lazy. We are smart people. We do it differently. Right? We do it on the beach, like what Paytm guy said, right? And I think that's the uniqueness we bring to the table, right? I have friends here who come here and they say, hey, we love your place. I said, come down to Mirissa. Come to Asaya Sands on Saturday. You will see, you can sit there and code, you can sit there and do your startup, you can have a drink, and you can go fishing, whale watching, whatever, right? So, and that's the uniqueness we bring to the table. And Sri Lanka is very well poised in that area as well. And I spoke about the talent pool and the geography, geopolitical location that we are in. With this conduciveness coming in, stability for the next 5 years is essential. Because you don't want tomorrow somebody coming and toppling the whole thing. That has to be essential. And then unlocking local potential. And I think the government gave that credibility to local investors, say, hey, this is a safe bet, come through. And that's why the fund of funds and the regulated bodies should come in. And I think with that, we have a good equation.
Absolutely, and you brought out a good point, and this was also discussed in the previous panels about unlocking the Sri Lankan funds for investment. And Shiluka, if I may ask you, how do you see this playing out? I mean, Sri Lanka obviously also has a lot of large corporates. They have been having little investments being done, but not in large scale. And there are a lot of we don't have family offices, but there is potential here. How do we unlock that?
Yeah, so I think the problem has been historically, the government has been the biggest competitor of a startup, because when you're getting a treasury bill at 20% or 30%, you don't need to go into startup investing. You invest in the government treasury bill, you're well and truly covered. With the rates coming down and generally the improvement in the fiscal situation, now there's opportunity, as Prajit said, stock market, real estate also to some extent. But there is appetite and there's also capital. There is actually significant pools of capital in the country. It's just that maybe the ecosystem has not been developed. And the other problem is valuations. We struggle. I mean, we do valuations, bread and butter. But most people don't understand startup valuations. And for a founder, it's potentially better to go to a Dubai or a Singapore or US or anywhere else, because you'll get 20, 30x on your whatever it is, even revenue, whereas in Sri Lanka, you'll get 2x revenue and 10 times profit. There's no fun in that. So it's changing. From when I started to now, or 10 years ago to now, it's changing. The money is there, and the understanding is getting better. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
That's good news. And Carl, you have investment funds in Europe, in the US. Why would anyone in Europe or US? There are a lot of opportunities out there. There are tons of startups with innovative ideas, great as ours, maybe better. Why would they want to come, look at Sri Lanka, invest in Sri Lankan startups, even though we may have the base, I would say, frameworks in place? What are your thoughts?
So, definitely, I mean, yesterday we had a great event at Venture Engine, and I was amazed to hear that in 2012, when you started, you had a lot of capital and nobody to invest in. And that's a nice problem to have. And now we're actually in a situation where it's the opposite, and it's enough to go one level down to see that there are lots of companies to invest in, but there's not enough capital. And this capital has to come from outside. There's not enough capital in Sri Lanka to fulfill that role. So it's clear that Sri Lanka has to be attractive for foreign investors, for foreign LPs committing capital also in Sri Lankan funds. And for that, it's not enough just to have an attractive startup ecosystem. It's also important to have a regulatory environment that inspires trust and that is functional for the requirements of foreign LPs. And also, it's necessary to have an ecosystem, a fund ecosystem around the fund structures that are available that allow LPs to know that that they're being taken care of well. You know, so there's KPMG here, of course, but we need more KPMGs, and we need law firms that are specialized in these fund structures that we're going to see. We need tax specialists and advisory companies that deal with this ecosystem. So it's a whole investment ecosystem that also has to exist next to the startup ecosystem. This is a whole. So what we saw this morning was great, and it's totally in line with what we have seen in the last months, and the ambition of the government and of the regulator here to open up and to progress is really great to see. We are greedy people and we're very impatient people, so we want to see things fast and we want to get exactly what we want. So what now we would like to see is implementation plan for these measures. We want to know when is happening what, you know. So and we want to see ideally structures that at least European LPs are familiar with. So the limited liability partnership that we've heard talking about this morning, we would like to see that much earlier coming, because there are international standards to how an investment fund looks like, and international LPs would like to see those and to inspire that trust that I was talking about. So this is part of also being attractive, you know, because it's true that the question is not only why Sri Lanka, the question is like, why not at home, you know? German investor, why wouldn't he invest at home? It's much easier. So it's not why Sri Lanka, it's why Sri Lanka instead of Germany, for example.
Exactly, yes. So do you feel that with the current regulations that have will be very soon implemented, that we have an opportunity to really go grab the attention of bigger VCs out there and get funding into Sri Lanka?
I do think so. I think there is a huge need for Sri Lanka and the ecosystem to communicate about that. And you guys are way too modest. We have seen this Sri Lankan excellence that we've all been talking about. But you all take that for granted, right? But we don't know that.
Yeah.
Beyond the borders of this beautiful island, you know. So you need to communicate about that, and you need to stop talking about beaches. Because the beaches are selling themselves They don't need you to be
Yes.
sold, right?
Yeah.
What you need to sell is this Sri Lankan excellence. It's this resilience that we've seen here. You have been through a lot in the last 10 years, and especially the entrepreneurial ecosystem is coming out of this with a high head. And these are the things that I think should be seen outside of the country, and talk about the specificities of the Sri Lankan entrepreneurial ecosystem. Which are the areas that this excellence manifests itself, and how does this, for example, distinguish itself from the neighbors or from big neighbors that Sri Lanka has very, very close by. So I think there's a lot of education to be done, because the major issue for foreign investors to invest somewhere else is ignorance. Awareness of opportunities. If you don't know that there are opportunities here, then there's no way that you're going to take them, right?
Absolutely. And that's a very valid point, Carl. And this is something I was talking earlier with Chandima about also. You know, we are quite proud to say we are the hidden gem. Apologies to Shehani as well. We cannot keep this gem hidden. You know, let's cut, polish it, and put it out there in the showcase. So, towards that, maybe, Chandima, let me ask you, how do we brand Sri Lanka? How do we take this word out there? What are your thoughts? Are there plans by the government to support this initiative?
No, definitely. I think branding and positioning is very important in any business, and this we have to treat it like a business of like positioning Sri Lanka and making sure awareness is there. And this is the same message I've received from many of the visiting investors as well. Especially the first-time visitors, and okay, we never knew that this kind of thing is happening in Sri Lanka. So definitely we are not done enough, and that's something that we want to do more. And I think the way that they are kind of restructuring the foreign missions, I think will also help. I think the president wants the missions to be accountable around taking the Sri Lankan message to the right communities, even from a business point of view. I'm not sure whether Devika is here right now, but we know what kind of role she plays for India from here, how she helps us work with Indian partners. Even today's speaker, it was just one conversation over a cup of tea with Devika, and next day she said, okay, it's confirmed. So that's the level of efficiency that India has brought in to their foreign missions, and I think we need to strengthen, and I think that's the intent of the government as well. So that's definitely a big part. But I think from a ministry and ICTA point of view, I think we have organized certain programs, both for kind of the startup ecosystem as well as for the broader tech industry. I mean, how we want to do this messaging. We also need to get an outside-in perspective before we even craft the message. I think startup, we are getting a lot of feedback, but even on the kind of the general digital industry, like okay, how is AI going to play in this? What's going to change? How do you play in that game? So we also need to get a better understanding as well. At the moment we have that, I think we are ready to kind of unleash the right messages, and definitely we'll come to you to get some support as well in that process. Yeah, that's about marketing.
Thank you. I think that's definitely heartening to hear. Because obviously, as industries, I mean, there are several industrial bodies in the tech industry who are supporting this, but having that umbrella cover from the government is very critical. Because you have, as you said, our diplomatic missions are out there, there are tools and there are channels that we can really leverage. Right? So I think let's open up to the audience. And yes, we already have our first question out there. A mic over here, please. Here to the front.
Amazing panel, and it seems between the gray hair, the bald hair, wisdom like me, there's a lot of amazing feedback to the Sri Lankan. So for me, my name is Marcel. I represent the largest European Federation of Business Angels called EBAN. We're the one who lobby most of the time the EU Commission to release the funds. I'm based in Qatar, and my colleagues from LATAM and Indika from Sri Lanka, based in Qatar. We're very excited to be here. One thing we just talking offline, we were amazed about the quality of tech knowledge and the founders of the startup, especially the 12 startup we saw yesterday. So you're going in the right path. However, I think the gentleman here, yes, I think you said about being shy and, nobody, Sri Lanka, nobody associate the beaches for sure, the kindness of the people for sure, but tech, startup ecosystem, we're not there yet. And it reminds me, about 3 months ago, I went to Islamabad in Pakistan, the same type of thing where the government was basically congratulating women coding from home, exporting 3.5 billion. And I keep telling them, I'm sorry, I only hear about Bangalore, right?
Yes.
So I'm really excited. The question for, I would say, the gentleman that I had the pleasure of speaking to yesterday, how about the attaché commercial in all the embassies? In Doha, and Dika knows this, the whole embassies, the world is represented. We can walk from one door to the other. And I'm saying is, how about putting that out there and making sure that the attaché commercial, which is basically the embassy front end, make sure that you are receiving delegations to Web Summit, for example, in Doha, in Paris, French Tech with Vivatech, in Barcelona, Mobile World Congress, in the US, CES. I think that's what, you're almost there. Talent is there, the excitement is there. Early stage investment with the Sri Lankan Business Angel Network, they are absolutely amazing. So now the VCs and the fund of fund, you're going in the right direction. But you need to have in parallel what I call that branding of made in Sri Lanka or tech in Sri Lanka. You guys are very good at branding anyway. So that's my humble feedback to you guys. So just think about it. It's purely a kind of giving back. And you can blame this gentleman, Andika.
Yeah.
He has the flag of Sri Lanka all the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add Asia Berlin Summit in Berlin this November to the list that you have been giving.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for that feedback, and absolutely 100% agree with you. And I believe there will be a follow-through in this whole discussion. Any other questions from the audience?
Hello, this is Rizwan. I'm from Pakistan. All the way came here just to attend this event. So I'm representing my company here, which is IT company with the name of Chico. The question I'd like to ask, one of the main point of the event was to launch of special virtual, special economic zone. So what about that? I would like to have more detail about that.
Yeah, I think Chandima, about the virtual SEZ. Yeah.
Right. So that's still at a conceptual stage, but we have a blueprint to follow. So essentially, I think many of you may know about the port city. That's actually a reclaimed land, and there's a separate set of, is legislation the right word? That applies there. And a subset of that is very attractive, I think, for any tech company. So tech companies really don't need to, position in an expensive real estate location. So our idea is to take a subset of those regulations and then actually apply it to a virtual special economic zone. This is actually Dr. Hans's project. So we have a couple of more steps to go. Definitely we'll keep you all informed. And we are looking for kind of early adopters, just like in the VC space, who are ready to kind of work with us and come and set up here. I think we want to be a place where regional startups come and set up for multiple reasons. I think there's, as Doctor said in the morning, there's a massive opportunity in the space of that expansion that we are looking at for the digital economy. So right now, our transaction for the digital economy is about 3.5 billion. We expect that to go to 15 billion by 2030. So that's a 5x there. Then also there's a need for us to strengthen some of the core industries, manufacturing, marine-related, agri, tourism, to deliver a much higher export revenue. And these industries, again, need digital adoption, and there'll be government support, grants, programs, center of excellences where the academic, industry people and the policymakers kind of coming together. So if you are a startup, or if you have any startups in other parts of the world that can actually solve problems very well in those industries, or kind of the common social challenges that we have, I think we welcome them to come and set up here. So that also increases the opportunity for the venture capital companies who will set up here to invest as well, and to leverage on kind of the fund of funds as well.
Thank you. I think, sorry, yes, Shiluka, go ahead.
Yeah, so on the port city, we've registered as KPMG. We have a company there. We have, I think, over 100 companies who registered in the port city, mostly IT, technology services, etc. It's a services SEZ. At the moment, there aren't many buildings. There are a few that have come up. But once the buildings come up, you can move into that. The advantage is there are some tax concessions. But more importantly, you can bring in unlimited number of employees from anywhere in the world, place them in the port city, and then export those services out. So for example, we have recruited staff from India into the port city company to place them in the Cayman Islands. So those kind of opportunities are there.
Thank you. I don't think we have time for any more questions. So I think it's time to wrap up, and it has been an amazing day. I think there's been so much of energy and vibrancy about Sri Lanka and how do we take it to the next level. So I think today is kind of day 0, and it's actually the journey is just beginning. So my question to all of you is, maybe I start with Shiluka. What are the next 2-3 really important things that you believe we should be doing? And what kind of ideas do you have for us to really take it forward, not just finish with the Disrupt Asia conference week?
So I think, even if you take the port city, there were certain tax concessions. That window has closed. The government is re-looking at those legislation. But I don't think people really need tax concessions. Yes, everybody likes low taxes or zero taxes. But what's historically always been a problem is policy inconsistency. As long as we have policy consistency and government that doesn't get too involved in business, we can do amazing things. And I think that's the most important thing for all of us as entrepreneurs or employees or whatever it is, that we are allowed to do our thing. And policy is consistent across multiple years, not one government term or 2 government terms, but 10, 20 years. Maldives is currently in the middle of, so I kind of overlook Maldives also. They're developing a 20-year plan. Opposition, of course, doesn't like it, but the fact of the matter is there's a 20-year development plan happening in Maldives.
Thank you. Chandima? Sorry.
Yeah, I think we talked a lot. It's time for action.
Yeah.
So I think all the policy changes that we talked about, I mean, I'm 100% convinced that those things will come to a finish line within the next 6 months for sure. And I think what's great about this kind of event is this is not a government-run event. It's, government, I think, participated, supported, but it's completely a ecosystem-driven event. There was no restrictions in terms of who comes here, who speaks on what kind of topic, and there were no restrictions. And I think that really helped to create an event of this stature that's fulfilling for everyone. So I think for Sri Lanka, this journey is very important economically. So I have no doubt that the government will continue to support and be aggressive in this space. And I think the president himself, being the Minister of Digital Economy, helps. The fact that our Deputy Minister Eranka comes from a tech background, has run a tech company, helps. The fact that the whole program is headed by Dr. Hans, who understands this space and who has a lot of patience, helps.
I'm sure he
I'm known to be patient, but I'm no match for him. And that's important in bringing about change because you need to, the straight line doesn't work always, but you still need to stay focused on what you want to achieve and somehow navigate and find a place and a space to get to where you want to get to. So I have only 2 messages. I think for everyone from Sri Lanka, stay. Things are going to happen here. So for everyone who are visiting today, come and keep coming. This will be a great place. You'll enjoy coming here. You'll enjoy the people. But I'm sure in the future, like your business investments and effort will yield high returns as well.
Thank you. Prajit, over to you.
So the message I would like to leave today is pretty much simple. Investors will come if they can find exits, right? So I think it's important we give exits because however conducive it is to invest, it has to be equally conducive for exits as well. So you can take a return ROI, right? So I'm hoping that will happen. And if that happens, then obviously from a startup perspective, I don't have to repeat what Vijay said in the morning, and I saw the energy oozing out. I was energized when I saw his energy and the passion and the drive. And what he said was commitment. So I'll leave that to the entrepreneurs to decide. But just talking from a BOV capital perspective, we took a punt 10 years ago to put money into Sri Lanka, right? We went through COVID, we went through economic crisis, we went through the fuel crisis, and then the bombs as well. So we lost about 4 years in the whole equation. But having said that, I'm happy to say that we have returned about 70 to 80% of the capital so far of our fund. And starting off with the first fund that we exited was, the first company we exited was Ensinga, which was in Singapore, which is a very curated exit, right? And it was fortunate that the founder himself was able to come back and start another company and we invested in that company.
Absolutely.
And the founder has also gone ahead and started a boutique fund, right? So that's the kind of trickling effect you want it to have. Sure. I'm also happy to say that we have just signed an agreement to sell another company. We exited another company 2 months ago, and we are going to list a third IT company in, hopefully, we were looking to announce it today, but I think it'll happen in this week. So the key is, if I keep talking about exits, not just investing, there'll be attraction as well, given the fact that it's going to be conducive for both investments and exits. So I think the key is that. And I would welcome everyone to come down and have a look at startups. And I think the focus is also to make Sri Lanka the hub so that you incorporate your companies here to get all the benefits, right? Like what Singapore did, what like Dubai did, or what India has done. Bringing back all the expats, we also can do the same thing and make it happen, yeah?
Thank you. And Carl, finally to you, what's next for you after your experience of the day from yesterday? What are you planning for Sri Lanka?
So next steps, of course, I mean, we're extremely privileged to work with ICTA and with Prajit on bringing an outside view on the evolution of the regulation here in Sri Lanka. This is really a very exciting thing for us. But we're very practical people and we're very impatient people. So the next steps for us, we want to officially launch what we would call Project Serendip, because we want to create a European Sri Lankan bridge fund that finances Sri Lankan companies with a very high potential to go global and especially to expand into Europe. So this is a bridge fund that is destined to corporate and private capital coming from Europe and to facilitate the investment of this capital into Sri Lanka and in a native Sri Lankan fund created on the model of what we have heard this morning. So This is a proof of concept fund that we want to put in place, and this is not something that we do alone or that we can do alone, and we're very happy to have the support of many, many people here in Sri Lanka. We have the support of the German Chambers of Commerce, and Martin was just here a couple of minutes ago. We're going to work closely with the startup ecosystem here. We are, of course, with ICTA, with Trace City, with Hatch, and many, many other, with Sluscom, who are also big supporters of that project. And we see that as an ecosystem project, and we're very, very privileged to work alongside the people who have paved the way here, like Prajit here present. So we're very, very proud and very excited to launch that project and to renew our commitment to take the jewel of Sri Lanka into the world and showcase Sri Lankan excellence.
Absolutely fantastic news. Thank you, Carl. And with that, I think we close the session today. I want to thank my co-panelists for that amazing insights and thoughts and recommendations. Good luck. And thank you all. I'm sure the challenge is already been taken by the government, by the private sector, and all the young entrepreneurs with the brilliant minds that we have. Will really take Sri Lanka to the next level and to create this gateway for South Asia or Global South.
As
yes.
Dr. Han said, 2080.
Yes.
20 by the government, 80 by everyone else.
Absolutely.
For this to
Great.
work.
Thank you so much. A big round of applause to the panelists, please.